We welcome you to our Neighbourhood Unitarian Universalist Congregation service on this Christmas Eve. Thank you for joining us, and thank you to our own Spirit Choir for our gathering music. My name is Gordon Thorne, and I will lead and weave this service this evening. We start tonight's service by creating a sacred space. And I invite you to join me in reading the invocation that we share every Sunday morning. So let's do that now together. Let us cast the circle of sacred space here. Let us cast the circle of cherished space here. A space of safety, a place of forgiveness, a place of love. If we want the world to change, we must craft in our space and in ourselves the seeds that grow a different kind of life, a life of graciousness, of creative intelligence, a place of life and spirit for ourselves and our families. Another ritual that we share is the lighting of our chalice, which is the symbol of our faith. And I'm going to invite Donovan and Bonnie to come up and do that now. And just follow along with our Spirit Choir as they sing. And now, Suzanne Mazars, who is our musical director, and the Spirit Choir have prepared a special song for us. Suzanne. Where I stand, I acknowledge the land where we live and work is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat people, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. This recognition of the contributions and historical importance of Indigenous peoples are clearly and overtly connected to our collective commitment to make the promise and the challenge of truth and reconciliation real in our communities. Good evening and welcome on this, the eve of Christmas. First, some housekeeping. This is a multi-generational service. Children are invited to stay with their parents if there are any children. I don't think there are, but I'll tell you anyway. We recognize that children may get fidgety and you may want to take advantage of our wiggle room. This is a room filled with toys at the back on my left, where parents and children can hear the service but can't be heard. Now, the sound of children's voices are a joy, not a distraction, so of course this is not required. The room is also a quiet spot, and if that's what you need at some point, you are welcome. We also have headsets at the back. Just ask Joe at the sound desk. They're available and they stream the sound into your microphones directly, from the microphones directly into your ears. And if you struggle to hear clearly in a big echoey room like I do, they are amazing. Thank you for dragging yourself out on your nice warm homes and away from your Christmas decorations and treats. We recognize that for some of you, this may be your only visit to a church or sanctuary or house of worship that you may have made for the whole year, and we are honored you are here. Some of you may have gotten our little mail out in your mailbox and thought, I wonder what they're about. Christmas Eve may be a safe time to come and check them out. So let me tell you a little bit about us here at Neighbourhood. We are Unitarian Universalists. Our roots are in a Christian church, and we are open to many beliefs, and we learn from many traditions. Our only creed is love, and we welcome all people who are seeking spiritual community. Our services can vary from week to week, 1 week Buddhist, 1 week pagan, 1 week Unitarian. Last week, we got lessons from the Quran. So we encourage you to come to several services to get a better feel for who we are. Our mission at Neighbourhood is to empower spiritual growth and shared action for the care of our world. And tonight, we are going to create a sacred space to nourish and grow your spirit, and share some songs and some stories, and then together find some ways that we may care for the world. You've met our musical director, Suzanne Mazars. Our director of Lifespan Learning, which is our children's program, is run by Julia Thompson, who is going to share a story with us later. And joining them is our contract minister, the Reverend Patricia Trudeau, who will share a meditation and a Christmas message of inspiration. Why do we gather together at this time of year? What is the meaning of this thing we call Christmas? Yes, a baby was born that was called Jesus, the Christ child that the day is named after. But traditions like gift giving, lights on trees, feasts and merriment predate the birth of Jesus, and many have pagan, not Christian roots. There's not agreement among biblical scholars that Jesus was even born on December 25th. For early Christians, it was easier to mark the birth when the rest of the world was busy celebrating winter solstice. The modern image of Santa Claus, that bearded man in a red suit, though it was based on many cultural figures, from Father Christmas to Sinterklaas, was actually created in an advertising office on Madison Avenue. It is easy to be cynical about Christmas, and yet we are here, yearning to be together with those we love, our family, our community. What is the power of Christmas? Is it maybe the one time of year that we make space for each other to feel peace and goodwill and, yes, love towards others? Is that the true meaning of Christmas? I read in the newspaper of a department store Santa who had stopped asking children, "What do you want for Christmas?" or "Have you been a good boy or girl?" and instead asks, "Who have you been kind to this year? What seed of joy are you going to plant in the new year?" I think that is the work of Christmas. In the words of Howard Thurman, when the song of angels is stilled, when the star in the sky is gone, when the kings and princes are home, and when the shepherds are back with their flock, the work of Christmas begins to find the lost, to heal the broken, to feed the hungry, to release the prisoner, to rebuild the nations, to bring peace among others, to make music in the heart. So let this service and this season be the planting of seeds for the coming year. So let's try that a little bit now. We set aside a short little time to greet the neighbors around you and wish them well. And after you've greeted a few neighbors, I invite you to turn to the camera right next to the projector light back there and offer a greeting to those who are joining us virtually on Zoom. And Suzanne will sound a chime to end. So let's take a moment to greet the neighbors around us now.
Hi, I'm Julia, and there are no children here, so this will be for the young of heart, which I'm sure you are. So we all have our special gifts to give and to make people feel good, and this story is about a boy who didn't think that he had anything to give. I will let you guess the title of the story when I'm finished. I'm sure you will. Once upon a time, there was a shepherd boy, and his job was tending to the sheep. Well, one day he went to the market with his father to sell the wool of the sheep, and a drum, a beautiful drum, just caught his eyes. This drum was for sale, and he was just transfixed. This drum had a gleaming white top, and it had rings around it. Now, he didn't want to say anything because he knew that his family couldn't afford to buy the drum. But his father saw his son looking at the drum. And he said, "You run along. I'm going to sell this wool and we'll meet up later." So later that day, after the boy had had dinner, he went into his room and he could not believe it. On his bed was the drum that he had seen at the market. Well, that night he slept with the drum beside him. The next day and every day after that, the boy practiced his drum, and for months and months, and he got quite good at it. And the shepherds looked forward to hearing him beating his drum, coming down the hill to tend to the sheep. Well, one evening, there came a knock on the door, and it was a homeless young couple who were looking for shelter. They had tried to find shelter in the village, but nobody was able to take them in. So the boys' parents made them comfortable in the stable where there would be room for them. Because the young woman was expecting, it seemed like she was going to have her baby any day. Well, one night, the boy was wakened up, and for a minute he thought it was daytime because there was such a bright, bright light shining right on him into his eyes. And he went over to his window and he looked out, and the stars were shining more closely than they had ever shone before, and it looked as though there were billions of stars in the sky. And he looked out, and everything was lit up with this beautiful starlight, all the pastures. And the boy was filled with such a magical feeling that he thought, I have to go outside and see what is happening. So he ran out and he joined, there was a huddle of shepherds there who were also gazing up at the starlight. And then they all heard the cry of a crying sound coming from the stable. So the boy ran inside the stable, wondering what it was. And it was the young woman and the young man who were now a mother and father holding their newborn baby, and the mother was trying to give it its first meal. And the boy suddenly felt that he wanted to give this couple something for their baby, but he didn't know what he could give them. He really thought he had nothing. And then suddenly he realized what he could give them. He ran inside the house to his room, grabbed his drum and ran outside and said, the drum is all I have, and I would like to give it to you for your baby. And the woman, whose name was Mary, smiled at him and said, I have heard your playing. Keep your drum and share your gift with others. So the little drummer boy, as he became known, took up his drum and began to play softly so as not to wake the baby, or not to disturb or frighten the baby. And then, just before the song ended, the boy felt that the baby smiled at him, and his heart was full. Then he smiled at me, pa-rum-pa-pum-pum, me and my drum. Thank you for listening.
A moment of rest from our journeys. The travelers had come a long way and had a long way yet to go. Others on the road had told them they might find a spring with water. Here they might find a place of shelter and calm where they could bed down for the night. Here we come, too, to find a moment of refreshment and rest from our journeys. No matter where you are going on your journey, no matter if it is your choice to go or if you left by faraway edict, no matter if you carry a burden of the deepest or the deepest of joys, no matter how weary and thirsty you are, pause here. Pause here. Take a deep, quiet breath. Take one with me. Take another. And one more. Rest in peacefulness. Be renewed and restored. For in a short while, this journey will continue with its worries and troubles and joys and promises. But until then, let us join together, minds and hearts in peace. One more breath together. We come together once more to hear an ancient story with fresh ears and open hearts. The story of love born and reborn amongst us, delivered by strangers in need of shelter. In that spirit, all souls which longs for grace, cradle hope, invite faith, and aim to blossom. Gordon has lifted up some of the traditions of the season and the theological inconsistencies of the ancient story, and there are many. Christmas is the celebration of a Palestinian prophet named Yeshua, or Jesus. The early Christian church celebrated his birthday in April, and then in June. And then they co-opted the Yule and solstice of earth-based religions, and the first Christmas celebrated in December was in 380 Common Era. So tonight I invite you just to simply suspend disbelief. Suspend it entirely, and hear it simply as a story which embraces many archetypal storylines, including the story of being homeless and without shelter and far from home. That's a story that I imagine most of us can be familiar with. At some point, were you lost? At some point, did you need shelter when you were far from home? I invite you to hear the story not so much for accuracy, but simply for the universal truths and themes: unplanned pregnancy, new life, birth, poverty, homelessness, and hope for a new life. A story can carry a truth far greater than the literal truth, so it may be true but not accurate. Tonight I have an old story to tell in the context of these modern times. So listen for these themes as I read from Scripture, Luke 2, 4-7. So Joseph also went up from the town of Nazareth in Galilee to Judea, to Bethlehem, the town of David, because he belonged to the house and the line of David. He went there to register with Mary, who was pledged to be married to him and was expecting a child. While they were there, a time came for the baby to be born, and she gave birth to her firstborn, a son. She wrapped him in swaddling clothes and placed him in a manger, because there was no guest room available for them. Notice there is no donkey. There is no mention of a donkey. There's no mention of a donkey or a wicked innkeeper, and no stable girl. One of my favorite characters added by a Unitarian, Joyce Pauley. We did the pageant a few years ago here. Her Christmas pageant, Would You Like to Hold the Baby?, revisits the timeless story of Mary and Joseph, the kings and the shepherds, with the addition of a new character, the little young stable girl. I sometimes wonder how the unmentioned innkeeper became such a villain in many pageants, an archetypal villain like Scrooge or the Grinch. If there was somebody who had to turn the family away, is it possible that the person felt shame and regret, just as people who work in the downtown shelters, city shelters of Toronto might feel when they have to turn people away in 2023? What we do know is that they lacked shelter. We are told there was no room, but the likelihood of the existence of an inn is very small. It's unlikely that inns even existed in that time, in that place, and Bethlehem was very small. Also, most people stayed with family. So Joseph, coming from the line of David, from the house of David, would have been taken into a guest space in a house if some had been available. It is a story, nonetheless, that speaks to the plight of so many refugees today. Mary and Joseph were refugees. Jesus was born homeless. Luke's telling is the only nativity gospel that begins with the political reality of the day, i.e., the census and the creed, the decree. So that wasn't just a gentle invitation. They would not have made such a treacherous journey so late in a pregnancy had there not been serious consequences for not registering. So they went. A story can carry a truth far greater than the literal truth. The Gospel of Luke later tells of angels proclaiming peace on earth and goodwill. But for most of history, this was taken as referring to a kind of private, internal peace. Few interpreters of the gospel imagined that the message, peace on earth and goodwill, actually meant to stop killing each other. In the Gospel of Matthew, a different gospel, we are told that they fled to Egypt and stayed 2 years because they were warned that King Herod was after them. Matthew 2:13-14. When they, the Magi, had gone, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream. "Get up," he said, "take the child and his mother and escape to Egypt. Stay there until I tell you, for Herod is going to search for the child and kill him." When he arose, he took the young child and his mother by night and departed for Egypt, and was there until the death of Herod, that it might be fulfilled that which was spoken by the Lord through the prophet, saying, "Out of Egypt I called my son." I have often thought there was just something missing in this story, a few bits. What deterred them from returning home? It had to have been something more than a dream, and a dream in which an angel warned them, that compelled them to leave in the night with a newborn, with a baby, and go to a place, an unknown place, where they once again had no guarantee of shelter or welcome. Maybe we can't believe that the angels brought revelation to the shepherds. Maybe. But we can believe the truth is revealed through the actions and words of those who dare to speak it and to act it. Through the actions and words of humble people, the humblest amongst us, and the shepherds were humble. Maybe we don't believe the Christmas story as told in the gospel, but we can believe in the truths that it holds for our own lives today. What we do know with more certainty is the modern story of so many political refugees seeking safety and a better life for their families. Like Mary and Joseph, they often find no place to stay. Despite their courage and the gifts they bring, there is often nowhere to sleep, not just to sleep, but to wash, to rest, to eat, and to find privacy. The story of the plight of modern refugees remains mainly unheard, in some cases just not believed. These stories come to us on the news and on X, formerly Twitter, and in our church newsletters. We do know that as of December 17th, the City of Toronto was supporting 11,181 people. 9,370 people in the shelter system and 1,811 people outside the shelter system in bridging hotels and programs supported by the Canadian Red Cross. That's a lot. Of these, more than 5,000 are refugee claimants, or 48% of the total number of people being supported. We know about refugees and asylum seekers. We just don't know what to do or how to help. On October 31st, East End United, our partners in this complex called DMC, the Danforth Multi-Faith Commons, began hosting 30 asylum seekers from African countries at their Eastminster campus, just next door. They were housed, fed, and given help with orientation and next steps in becoming settled in Canada. You may have seen news footage this week of Jagmeet Singh visiting Eastminster United on Thursday and talking with one of the asylum seekers from Uganda. Since that day, the last 2 of the asylum seekers have relocated. I had the privilege to get to know them over lunches and during outings on Friday afternoons. Most have now moved to hostel spaces located in Mississauga as a next step. The two who remained until Thursday have been offered a basement apartment in someone's home. Like Mary and Joseph, their moves have been sudden and uncertain. On both dates, October 31st and December 12th, they got the word in the morning and they were moved by nightfall. There was no time to say goodbye. On December 12th. I really miss them. What began as outreach on behalf of Neighbourhood, NUUC, became so much more. I made a point of not asking questions about their backstory or what they were fleeing from. Stories emerged nonetheless, mostly about their hopes and their dreams, and sometimes about their families. We talked about ordinary things like laundry, the neighborhood, the foods they missed and wanted to prepare, the weather. The question I was most likely to ask was, what do you still need for winter? And what size are your feet? I came to know them by name and shoe size. What I had not expected was how much they would touch my heart. I had not expected the laughter and learning that was exchanged. I cannot help but wonder where they will all end up, especially those who are a bit older. But I feel hopeful knowing that there are people who care and will advocate for them. When they first arrived, I felt really powerless, almost incapable. None of us who helped or volunteered could provide the comforts that we ourselves enjoy in our homes every day. I soon learned that just being there and remembering names made a difference. I imagine that many of us feel both compassionate and powerless in the face of the refugee crisis, both here in Toronto and in other places of the world far away. What can we do? It does no good to feel hopeless. If they have the faith and courage to come here and sleep on mats in a gym, then I have faith that this community and other communities will continue to open their doors and their hearts. We may not have gold, frankincense, and myrrh, and those are odd gifts by today's standards, let's face it. But we can donate boots to the Out of the Cold. This congregation can donate boots to the Out of the Cold program that happens every Friday. This congregation has contributed much in the past and continues to be involved in that outreach. I would like to think, this is my fantasy, that if Joseph and Mary showed up here in Toronto with a precious baby on the way, there would be room at the proverbial inn, or at least at a city shelter that could accommodate a family. Would they be welcomed and fed? Would they be, as the song said, harbored? Would they be protected and comforted? Or would they have to keep moving to avoid persecution? And what reasons would we give to move them along? Fortunately, there are ways we can help. We are not being asked to dig into our wallets. We are not being asked to take the radical step of opening the doors of our homes to them. But we can help. Sometimes what is asked is simply to understand the person who is now in need, to understand the forces that led that person to the plight they are in now, to take time to see the person as a person, not as a problem or somebody wanting something, wanting to take our jobs or to take our resources, money, food. Just to see that person as a whole person with reasons for their actions, a person like ourselves, a person who is in need, just as we too are often in need. Families and individuals are arriving daily in Toronto looking to build a new life. Many are told there is nowhere for them to go. We can urge various levels of government to fund shelter spaces for refugees and asylum seekers now, so that they do not have to sleep on the streets of Toronto or in empty garages during the winter. There are actions being taken, and where there is action, there is hope. Thank you. A petition from Progress Toronto is circulating and has garnered over 6,000 signatures. The petition compels us to tell Parliament to fund shelter space for refugees and asylum seekers. This is from this week's news. Government bodies do pay attention when large numbers of people advocate. We have seen positive and practical responses from all three levels of government in the last few weeks, but more needs to be done. We know that there can be enough housing for all, housing that offers comfort, warmth, home. We can keep informed about the plight of refugees and asylum seekers and be knowledgeable about existing resources. When you see someone sitting on a suitcase, and the slide if you have it, Joanne, please, speak to them. They are not a threat to be feared. Imagine how they might feel, how vulnerable they might feel. Is there room at the inn? Currently, there is not. But we can do better. We can hear the gospel message to welcome the stranger, to feed the hungry, and to blur the borders. We can honor the sacredness of every person, regardless of the place of birth, skin color, or wealth. Political unrest, occupancy, poverty, immigration. The story tells of too many people and not enough housing, so that the couple shelters in a stable with animals. The Christmas story speaks to so many struggles that are evident today and tells us that there is hope, that the birth and life of every child is sacred. Every night that a child is born is a holy night. It is the same hope that asylum seekers bring to this place. Hope for safety, freedom, and an escape from poverty. Where there is hope, so too there is joy. Together we can write a new story of inclusion and welcome. We can make room. The work of Christmas begins here and with us. Thank you.
Please rise in spirit to sing Joy to the World, 245
Now is the time for our offertory. If this is your first time with us, the passing of baskets can be a scary thing. But the sharing of ourselves is part of every faith, from Buddhism to Islam. If you are moved, be generous. But there are many ways to give, and a returning face is a gift very much appreciated. If you're online, Please use the link displayed in the screen or in the chat, which leads you to our donations page. That's the same thing up there. The greeters will pass the baskets for those who choose to make contributions. We have also got baskets of candles, and the candles will be passed at the same time. Please take one for each person and hold on to them for the next song. And while we do that, the choir will sing.
244.
If you have found love and acceptance here, if you have found home here, if you have known kindred spirits here, let this offering be a token of gratitude for our common life as we build the common good. Now, to close, we have a tradition of singing Silent Night together as we hold up candles. And greeters and helpers will light candles at the end of each aisle, and I ask you to light your neighbor's candle after yours has been lit. The little paper rings are so that the wax doesn't fall and drip on your hand. Please keep your candle lit after the song is over. And then on Zoom, if you have a candle, please light it and sing along with us, but keep your microphones off. As we bring this service to a close, I invite you to form 2 lines and come up, take off the paper guard, put it in the basket here, and then put your candle in the sand of the chalice. As you do, I invite you to plant a seed of love and kindness in the coming year. Take a moment and make it your intention. And after you have put your candle in the sand of the chalice, I invite you to join hands or put your hands on the shoulders of those around you and form a circle around this sanctuary before our closing words. And I invite you to do that now.
In this holiday season, may we find peace inside ourselves. May we be peace for those around us. And may we renew our commitment to bring peace with justice to our community and to the world. May we be at peace. Our service is ended. Go in peace, return in love. Amen.
Thank you all. Merry Christmas.